entering some of the final moments here of our Swiss format as we just have a few more players to be able to move on through into that round of 8. I say a few more, there's actually quite a few more. But anyway, let's get on with it. We have got ourselves ByuN versus Dark going head-to-head next, as I've got Nick as well as Loco here to be able to take a look at that stuff. Oh, I actually got Nick and Simon, whatever you want to do, I don't really care.
Nobody ever calls me
Simon, you know.
Nobody ever calls him Simon. Some people are like, they look at the WhatsApp, it's like, Simon, who's Simon?
You can call us by our middle names, I mean, however you want to break it down.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I actually don't know your middle name.
Alexander.
Really?
Yeah.
I really like the name Alexander.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about the game.
My gamer middle name is Staseless, actually. But
Wow, amazing. All right.
Open the dictionary, put it at the first word.
That's right. He was Alexander.
ByuN versus Dark. Let's talk about it here. Loco, of course, these two, both 2-1 at the moment. So if you win this series, you will be moving through into that round of 8, which is obviously really, really cool. And if you don't, that's not yet.
Yeah, honestly, ByuN versus Dark is always an absolute banger. These two are some of the very best players that we've ever had in StarCraft 2. Both of them are world champions. They've been around for a long time. They play against each other all the time in the online cups. So I think this should be an absolute banger.
Yeah, real grinders when it comes to how they're playing a lot of those online tournaments and how that sits. But as you say, both world champions. Of course, ByuN right now, in terms of the form he's showing, as long as his wrists aren't getting to him and things like that, he's playing an absolute belter recently.
For sure. One issue, though, is that even though I think his wrists are basically fine, it seems like he's kind of sorted that out. He's got the muscle around the tendons.
Psychological.
I think there's a little bit of psychological stuff going on there as well, but also it seems like he's done his stretches. He's in good condition. Dark does generally beat ByuN, especially in the higher stakes matches, and we would put this as, you know, about as high as you can go. So, although I think ByuN is capable of beating Dark, I have to think that Dark is going to be the favorite here.
Not super warm into this matchup, I suppose. I mean, both players have technically, yes, gone up against players of the opposing race, if you think about where ByuN's been, but it was against a Laser, and that's a 2-0 for him. I don't think we can really, as much as Laser is great, and we have seen him attain some decent heights, Loco, whilst we take a look at the map vetoes, it's not exactly the same heights that good old Dark has been able to attain in the past.
No, absolutely. Dark is just one of those very tricky players, right? It's very difficult to actually go up against him, because the one game he's opening up roaches and he's playing the slowest game ever. The next game he's going to be going for a massive roach Ravager attack, and then if everything goes terrible, he's always got the chance to just make a whole lot of infestors and just sit back for the next 10 minutes. The one vulnerability that we have seen in his play at this tournament so far is when he is messing around a little bit too much, I guess is what we can say. Like he's getting his upgrades a little bit too late or a little bit too early, maybe hitting a small supply block, and then as soon as Terran hits like a really sharp timing attack, there seems to be some vulnerabilities, but other than that, I think Dark is an absolute legend in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there are those moments where ByuN is able to identify some of those kinds of vulnerabilities and be able to kind of pick away at them a little bit. He has always been quite strong when it came to aggressive plays here, Nick. So do you think that there's an opportunity for ByuN to be able to strike out here?
I mean, if he can, that would be incredible. Yeah. I would love to actually see ByuN move on here and win this. The thing is, Dark is just, he's so consistent, and I think the longer that he plays any player over and over again, the more comfortable he gets with him. Dark has very few players that he goes up against that really he's I guess you could say weak. I mean, one was Rogue, another would be maybe Maro, but Dark is pretty clean. ByuN definitely has brought I think maybe one of the best iterations in the modern StarCraft 2 era of himself that we've seen. But so far it hasn't quite been enough to really deliver when he's against his Korean peers.
Yeah, I mean, his ZVT has looked good despite losing to Clem at the beginning of this tournament as it did stand here, Loco. Because, yes, as much as Clem wins and it's a 2-1, actually Dark still looks really good in that. It's just that Clem, when it comes to the matchup, can also excel quite considerably.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I was just looking at the statistics between these two. Apparently they have faced off against each other 22 times this year so far. With
this year?
Yeah, they play against each other all the time. They've played like 70 games historically. It's insane. But this year, 22 matches, and 55% of them, that is, went in favor of ByuN. But
really? Oh, it's still very close.
Oh, wow.
It's very, very close.
Yeah, very close indeed. All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Time to get this going. The winner of this will go 3-1 in the Swiss and move on into the round of 8. Let's do it.
Well, we've got another great one coming up. These two have faced off several times, as our talent was telling us. And I think it's important to mention that in the last 9 times they went head-to-head, ByuN pulled away with 8 victories.
But let's not forget that it's kind of a 50-50 when it comes to their history. But recently, ByuN is the favorite. أعزائنا المشاهدين هذه المباراة بتكون ما بين ByuN وما بين أحد أهم اللاعبين عندنا دارك. بين المباراة هذه كل الهيستوري حقهم يقول لك 50-50، لكن آخر 9 مرات واجهوا فيها ByuN دائما يكون هو اللي عنده الأفضلية.
Yeah, we can't take online results here because we are in person at G8, and this is an incredible opportunity to come out on the stage and play here. And I know both of these players are ready to embrace it.
بيكون عندهم فرصة، خصوصا انه في اخر مرة واجه فيها احد من لاعبين تيرن اللي هو طبعا اللاعب اللي كان بيلعب بروتوس، قدر انه يهزمه، فإليزر خسر قدامه، فاكيد اللي بيكون عنده فرصة انه يهزمه مرة ثانية بما انه هو لاعب تيرن ايضا. بس خلونا نشوف اللاعب الاول مين بيكون.
Yeah, both of these players are ready for their match, so what do you say we bring them out?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. For Shopify Rebellion, it's ByuN! Finishing 3rd, 4th in the GSL Season 1 Code S. Like I said, he's won 8 out of the 9 head-to-heads online. He's gonna see if he can bring that record to land here on this stage.
في آخر مرة تواجه مع خصمه اللي ظهر الآن ByuN قدر إنه يفوز في كل البطولات الأونلاين، لكن يوم تقابلوا في اللان كان عنده فرصة ByuN إنه يفوز، فاز مباراة واحدة لكن خسر المباراة الثانية، فهم متعادلين تقريبا، ما هو بس في الهيستوري حقهم، أيضا في المواجهة الأخيرة في بطولة اللان، لكن الآن هذا أيضا بيكون لان، فما حد يدري وش اللي بيكون النتيجة حق المباراة صراحة، بس كذا خلينا نشوف اللاعب الثاني مين بيكون ونشوف نتيجة المباراة بعد شوي. ممثل DKZ جيمنج، رحبوا معنا بدارك. المرة هذه اللي راح نشهد فيها هذه المباراة راح تكون مباراة للي يوصل للبلاي اوفز، ما راح نودع احد من اللاعبين، لكن اثنينهم فازوا جيمين خسروا جيم واحد، قدامهم الان الجيم هذا عشان نعرف مين اللي منهم بيتوجه على طول للمرحلة الثانية.
Dark has won 2 out of 3 of his matches so far in the tournament against Eleza and Hero, but his only loss has been from a Terran. Let's see if he can overcome this Terran in this match.
اللي ما يدري ايضا اعزائنا المشاهدين بما ان ByuN زي ما احنا عارفين كلنا يلعب تيرن، الخسارة الوحيدة اللي اخذها دارك في الجروب ستيج حتى الان كان قدام لاعب تيرن، بيكون عنده فرصة الان يواجه تيرن مرة ثانية، هل بيقدر يتغلب عليه؟ هذا الشيء اللي راح نشهده.
Dark, ByuN, join us center stage and shake hands.
ByuN مرة ثانية يسويها، دائما ما يحب انه يسلم على احد لانه يوريك التحدي اللي موجود عندنا في المسرح، فبالتوفيق لهم في هذه المباراة. خلونا على طول نروح مع المعلقين ونشوف وش ممكن يصير.
2 exciting players. Fancy, I cannot wait for this match. They're bringing the energy back into the building, and I hope you're enjoying it over there on the caster desk.
Of course we are. I'm very excited for this. Classic Terran versus Zerg, some of the most historic players as well for the entirety of StarCraft 2. At times, dominance, the best of their races at times. The GSL victors dominating not just the Korean stage, but also the world, as we have 2 world champions, so on and so forth, Artosis.
Yeah, it's quite the match. And of course, you know, Dark has been so consistent over the years, but ByuN, I think, has really risen up, filled in his game lately, and is looking fantastic. It's a hard match to predict. That being said, what do you think, Zombie Grub? Who do you favor here?
It's actually kind of difficult. I do think I favor ByuN overall, but then I do think back to their GSL, I believe Season 1 group stage, where it just felt like Dark really did have ByuN's number, and then just in a big surprise, ByuN was able to knock him out in the decider match. We're getting to the round of 4, and it was kind of abruptly, and it's kind of weird, and that just kind of happens with Dark sometimes.
Yeah, that does occasionally occur, and of course, over on the other side, like ByuN occasionally does have little breakdowns himself. I remember a couple years ago, I don't know if you recall this one, he had just come out of the military and was up 2-0 on Dark. and had him dead in game 3, and his wrist just gave out, and like it ended up going 0-3 from there. But you know, I think he's been pretty good with that so far. I also have to agree with you, Zombie Grub. I am favoring ByuN.
Let's see if we're right. We're starting off on Royal Blood for game number 1. In the bottom left, as the red Zerg, he is Dark.
Just the most amazing 3 Musketeers facial hair there for him. In the top right, none other than ByuN.
It really was the case that Dark had just looked so good against him in that GSL, in the offline tournament, and then it fell apart almost for no reason. Yeah. I mean, that happens to these top players sometimes. There is definitely a large mental aspect to everything. I actually never noticed that before. I like it. We have the image, the black mana from Magic the Gathering on those coins. Excellent. Good to see. But yeah, you know, thinking about these two playing against each other, it just sounds like a very good match in general, but I'm having a hard time choosing pretty much anyone against ByuN right now. Like maybe Maru, Classic, Serral, right? But other than that, like I really feel this is a tournament. He can top 4. Yeah, I feel like any of these, like, well, not maybe all the players, I would say realistically could top 4, but so many of them that I could. Yeah, well, I mean, this is probably the most star-studded event that you can really think of. There's no chaff here. You know, that's the real thing I think here about Gamers8, where it's like, okay, yeah, we have more players at Katowice, but there's like everyone here is so strong that they have had those crazy finishes before. Absolutely. Now, this is an interesting adaptation for ByuN. That's a very odd supply depot placement. Isn't it? It's kind of a funny little one right there. I'm not sure what that's all about. Huh. But okay. Maybe that's just like where his SCV was at the time. Maybe he was getting a little bit caught up with things. But I mean, the standard wall with 2 racks, he did kind of move one of them back a little bit so that he can add the add-ons onto both of them. Yeah. Definitely a good little adjustment there, but I would imagine that this will be just his standard 3 Reaper build. Yes, exactly. Yes, he's really made this his own. It wasn't him who created it, and I'm sure there's a lot of Maru fans out there who would say that Maru is better with it, I suppose, but I would say that ByuN is really now synonymous with this opener. By the way, just in case the community is interested, I did ask Maru who actually made this build. Yeah. Special. Special made this build, really? Yeah. Oh, that's sick. Yeah. All right. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. But anyways, it's really become ByuN's, and he is so good at those Reapers. We already knew that, but then the way that he's able to follow up has really added another layer of ambiguity to this matchup for the Zerg. They just don't know exactly what's following the 2 racks. That's right. That's right. I don't know about you, but I personally am a big fan of the 4 racks follow-up. Like when he starts pressuring with the Marines a little bit, I really am a big fan of when he chooses that particular variation. But we'll see what he ends up going for here. Just kind of keeping some pressure on with double Reaper at the moment. Getting those upgrades. Marines coming up to clear out this Overlord, so it's not going to be able to get down to that natural expansion and see that 3rd racks. That's actually the build that's ended up just kind of bopping Dark abruptly. Like, Dark seemed like he was very comfortable against it, and then ByuN did it again, and then just bopped him. And that happens with that 4 racks follow-up. You're absolutely right. It can be a very effective one, and if it doesn't bop, it still has its merits. But it's not quite the 4 racks. It is just the 3. Dark is opting for a Roach Warren at this point. Well, that's Dark for you, isn't it? He's the biggest Roach bro in the whole world. Like, this guy... Zergling speed, what's that? It sounds like a waste of gas. Like, it's so funny, actually, how much better he is at battling in a macro game. I'm not talking about a timing game, but a macro game with Roaches against Terran. I feel like no one is even close to his skill with those units. I think I absolutely agree. Again, one of those things where maybe he's not always the absolute best at it. Perhaps there's times where it is more meta for other Zergs, and they can do really well with it too, but he's the one that just like makes it pervasive. He's like, any map, any meta, like I'll bring that in, and up against any player as well. The Roaches are a bit more of a, like, concrete barrier, you know, like there's a certain amount they get done. Maybe they don't get a skill cap as high as those Ling Banelings, but if you got the Roaches, you got the Roaches. You know, there's not much to it. It's a numbers game, so it's going to be especially helpful if ByuN is going for something that can overwhelm at the drop of a hat. So, for instance, Mass Marine, which is exactly what he's doing. Dark, as soon as he gets those Roach numbers all together, especially with the Queens transfusing and tanking, can actually deal with this without much interruption. Let's see if he does have the numbers.
Well, he's walking in. Those combat shields are done here. Moving forward, getting a scan, doing the stim as well, jumping on top of some of these roaches. Already gets a couple of them and queens. The Ling's coming up, and it seems like there's just enough here from Dark. He doesn't take any significant damage.
Yeah, you see ByuN actually a little disappointed with how that went down. He was hoping to find Dark a little more caught off guard, like a couple of less roaches. The queens not quite there, but Dark did anticipate something like that and was just barely prepared. And if you're just barely prepared with roaches, again, it's a numbers game, nothing really to make moves with like you would against Ling Baneling. So ByuN, I mean, he's going to control the map for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, at this point as ByuN, you're just trying to force a few more units out of Dark, which, you know, that's part of drone control in this matchup. You got to make sure they're not just able to freely drone. But honestly, like, after you've done one stim like that, that's the end of it. Yeah. Like, I don't think Dark is afraid at all. He doesn't think ByuN's going to come sim in. What he has right now would easily annihilate that army if he did so.
Yeah, exactly. So Dark has got the time to build up his economy as well as wait for those upgrades to finish, because, you know, there's also that chance that you might be thinking, well, can't Dark just go and counterattack at this point if the roaches are in large enough numbers and the stim's already been used? Kind of, but the reinforcements be coming out so fast for ByuN. The medevacs would be popping out. A tank could be on the way, and without that roach speed, you're not really hoping for a lot of, you know, follow-up to it. So best to play on, well, what Dark does often play with, which is going to be that roach style, somewhat lower drone count as well, not that just like huge burst over into 90 drones. And then a question is 1-1 roach attack or into the infestation pit in the hive, and we have our answer there. The pit goes down.
Yeah, I do like the teching up a little bit quicker here. Now, double medevac coming out. 16 Marines going to be dropped here, picking off the Overlord. Of course, we can see that there is no hatchery there yet, so not something that Dark really needs to think about too much. And of course, he expects those medevacs to be out by now anyways.
Was his second engineering bay just late, or did he start that armor late?
I think it was late, honestly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. No, that does happen now. It feels like more often than ever with the opener that he chooses. He goes into a faster single upgrade. But yeah, he's on the way to now, I believe, 2-1, because that armory is done. Let's get that started pretty quickly.
And pathogen glands actually on the way, as well as burrow. Oh, that's kind of cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, Dark really does have a lot of cool things about him, doesn't he? He's a really cool guy. He looks cool and he does cool things. And that includes investors, which, you know, are much cooler than they were in 2011 when they're just super overpowered. So I hope we get to see some of that usage with the burrow as well. We're not quite to that stage where I think he's going to be dependent on it, so we can see just letting two groups of roaches deflect two different drops.
Yeah, I love this idea, right? Like, he can do some of these fungal traps where he has the Burrowed Infestor pop it up and fungal bile, right? Like, he is one of the best players in this regard. Now, Pathogen Glands finishes up right there just as the medevacs come in. So, going to be a little bit harder to surprise ByuN, unless he just happened not to be looking at it there.
Yeah, which, I mean, sometimes happens, but hopefully not. You know, we do have our situation going into the mid to late game. Second factor on the way for ByuN now at this point, so a fourth command center should be on the way soon too. He has been really doing quite well with a more mass bio style, but yeah, with the second factory, going to be a little more of that anchored push with the tanks.
Yeah, especially with that +1 siege tank attack already on the way. I think adding in the additional siege tanks, just continuing to macro up. I mean, if you're going to play against Roach, this is kind of what you want to do. You want to outscale the Roach user. Roaches are just supply inefficient, basically. So as you approach max supply, especially if you have siege tanks in that army, the Roach army is going to do worse and worse and worse against you. But this attack, I feel like Dark has enough here.
Yeah, I do as well. There's not a lot of healing power for the Marines, so initially this might look kind of okay, but actually the Roaches are going to sustain through this. They've got some decent health. As long as they're not just being shelled away by all of the tanks, they do want to get those corrosive biles down and take them out. Finally, a second tank goes down, now a third, and I believe that's the fourth back there. It will eventually fall, and ByuN is forced to completely flee. In the main base, he did get some damage done, a couple of drones, a couple of queens, but not much more, as medevac did die.
If he had gotten more drones there, I would have been okay with this whole set of things that ByuN just did. I think it was smart in some ways to try to get that drop off, but the fact that Dark reacted this well and only lost 1 queen and 4 drones to the drop, I don't think that was that good for ByuN. I actually think that was better for Dark.
Yeah.
Losing 4 tanks right there, right as you're transitioning at like 160 supply into 2 factory.
Yep.
I mean, if he just sits back, maxes out, and goes, that's a tough position for Dark.
It's also before +2 was done for the bio and +1 for the vehicle weapons. It was really, you know, not the best timing right there. And as far as suppressing Dark, I mean, I'm not sure it did. We have a very bold move, though, not just bringing in bio to the main base drops, but also the tanks. We'll see if it works out. Spawning pool does go down, and the response so far from Dark is taking a little while. That lair is also very, very low. A queen pops out, but of course doesn't have the transfuse. That lair looks like it's going to go down, but Dark is not back at home for a reason. A lot of his army went across the map for a counter, and it has taken out that tank. Looking for the other one as well. We got ourselves a bit of a base trade, but it's Dark who comes out cleaning up the home, as well as continuing to pressure on ByuN.
Yeah, ByuN is actually going to be able to push this back a bit. Of course, he lost more workers than Dark lost, but losing that layer is incredibly annoying, especially when you just lost the spawning pool as well, and Dark is just going to GG. Doesn't want to play from that deficit. You know, at the end of the day, it works out for ByuN, but I feel like, you know, when someone makes these moves that I'm critical of, and then it's like they do end up winning with it, it's like, okay, I'll give you the win, but
Yes.
I think you play that same type of thing against like Serral, for instance, who's going to have a slightly tighter game, and you're going to be in a lot of trouble as ByuN. So it may have worked, but I feel like he could have done a bit better there as well.
No, I 100% agree. I'm actually surprised he tapped out when he did as well. Not necessarily because of the position, but rather that Dark is one player who does often play from the suboptimal position, shall we say, and is actually capable of comebacks, particularly on the composition that he had, which was Roach, Ravager, Infestor. He's made so many comebacks. I mean, there's literally a game between these two online where ByuN literally killed him with a 2-racks like proxy. Like, he was just dead, and I was like, okay, he's gonna tap out. And then he played 25 minutes and almost brought the game back. So, yeah, tapping out of that one is actually kind of a surprise just for the history of Dark. But yeah, he just accepted his loss. I was like, all right, then on to the next one.
Yeah, I really think it was a combination of the spawning pool and the layer going down. You know, if you're trying to get your layer back, but you have to build the spawning pool first, this is going to take so long, and you're going to be sitting there on just Roach, Ravager, Infestor against 2 factory siege tank. It's like, yeah, I get it. Okay. You know, sometimes it's a good idea. If you're starting to get a little bit tired, if you are going to get more emotional because ByuN 98% of the time beats you there, I'm okay with leaving the game, getting into game number 2, and trying to have a better opener.
It does seem like that is one of the options that have been chosen here. Just cut your losses, even though there was a chance to make that a bit weirder and move on. So here we are on game 2 of Gres in the bottom right for DKZ. He is Dark.
And in the top left, our Terran player winning game number 1 with some interesting attacks. It is ByuN.
Felt kind of like ByuN didn't really find so much headway a couple of times. There was the first 3-racks opener with the Marines that were like, just stopped. We didn't do much. But then there was the attack on the 3rd base, which, the dynamic of the 2 races means that just because the Terran is cleaned up doesn't mean that they didn't do enough. You know, if they suppress the Zerg's economy, then that sometimes is all they wanted to do, and it's actually a huge success. But I feel like for the style that Dark plays, as in the Roach Infestor, as well as Dark himself, he usually actually is really quite good being comfortable on sub-70 drones, and even only on 3 bases, which he would have been at after the lair died. So it still didn't feel like one of those, like, okay, Hail Mary times, gotta go, and oh, I didn't work, so I guess, GG me. It still felt like it was a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of room there, and then it just suddenly no room at all, door closed.
Yeah. Well, I almost understand when Dark moved across the map, like his army, the main bulk of his army that he counterattacked with, was pretty darn far from his main base, and he had just killed those 4 tanks in that initial push, like over near that 3rd, right? So when you put those together, plus you see how many units are in your main, you're like, I can do something with this. Let's go for it. And definitely, I mean, the call ended up being wrong. There's no question about that. But I do agree with you that with Dark, I've said this for a while, I feel like he is the best low economy like macro Zerg, right? Like you can put him at some terrible drone count, and he will sit there and play Hive with you.
Yeah, exactly. I think also that attack into ByuN's third base was a little less basically quick as Dark was hoping for. He kind of busted past the third on top of one tank, but then the second one was still there and actually lived for quite some time. Got a lot of tank shots, so it could have been a little more of a decisive battle, or certainly closer battle on the offensive, turned into one in which ByuN brought his reinforcements and then actually did push Dark back. But at his last game, we gotta forget about it, as Dark was seemingly very quick to just move on, cut his losses, and say, let's play into the second game. It is Gres, and we do have a different follow-up from ByuN this time. Factory is on the way after his 2 racks opener.
Well, this is one of the nice things, right? Like we saw the previous game. Well, unlike that, we actually have an Overlord behind the natural, so I think he is going to be able to get a pretty good vision of what's going on. That previous game he didn't really know, so he did have to kind of blindly make the units, which was good because the Marines did end up coming, and he ended up stopping that. But with this Overlord placement, I think we're going to get a full scout here from Dark, and he's going to be able to counter this pretty comfortably.
Yeah, absolutely. 3CC build, so ByuN is, I would say a lot of times it does this opener, it is into a single Banshee and then into the 2-1-1, which the single Banshee gives him a little bit of harassment, a little bit of scouting, but then also a little bit of defense, especially against a player who's well known for roaches and certainly for some all-ins and cheese in the early game.
Yeah, anytime that you're going to grab that quick Banshee, that's going to be pretty good against Dark, I think. The third command center going to allow him to really get into one of those bigger economy-based games. Of course, you have to be careful going into a bigger game against Dark. I feel like he's the one that really normalized 90+ drones and mass baneling, right? Which can get incredibly hard to play against.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fascinating thinking about how many strengths Dark has had over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, he really has been a part of every Zerg meta and, on the forefront of Zergs, the best Zergs at times. So he really does have everything under his arsenal. It's just a matter of, what year is it? What does he actually prefer? It's going to be Ling Baneling for this time as the Baneliness is coming down. ByuN actually not going for the Banshee, rather instead using that Tech Lab to build a Raven. So a little bit of a twist on what we usually expect with the follow-up here, and it's going to help him, of course, clear up creep, but also a little bit of distraction. I've even seen him use an anti-armor missile on the Queens with the Ling Baneling, of course, but he micros against the Ling Baneling, and then the Queens are far less good at tanking, the emergency tanks, when they're anti-armor missile.
Oh, nice surround there. That's actually really interesting. I want to say I don't think I've seen the anti-armor on the Queens during that situation. I am a huge fan of an early Raven against Zerg, though. I think it does give some added flexibility. I swear, when this game first came out back 12, 13 years ago, I was completely certain it would evolve into Quick Raven every game in this matchup to clear creep, and it really hasn't. So I'm kind of happy to see this, although it does look like ByuN's first ideas with it is going to be some harassment with those auto turrets. Yep.
And you can bring it back later on, but, I think there was also a lot of speculation when the patch came out earlier this year that the Raven will once again be experimented with more often in this matchup. But at the end of the day, I think it's, it's a combination of how awkward it is to get actually in this matchup, having to swap the reactor off and pause your medevac production, as well as how awkward it is to actually use. It's kind of, it feels like it's very easy to get it killed. Like the Queen's target fire.
I mean, the increased speed helps a little, but I totally know what you mean on that. Like, you're not going to be able to immediately pull it out like at the speed of your other units.
And it's not safe, like that Banshee we were talking about either. So
try an auto turret against a Roach all in. It's not going to work out for you.
Exactly, yes. But might be bringing it forward in a little bit. Yeah, I think he's actually bringing it back to his 2 medevacs and the Marines, posturing on that very obnoxious area on Gresfon as ByuN is building tanks. He could absolutely abuse this position. So current goal, deny creep. Secondary goal, get your tanks over here and siege up.
Yeah, we're going to see if he's able to pull off a push like that. A lot of Ling Bane coming up and surrounding. Good evacuation there from ByuN. Coming in with his Raven now towards that main base location. Throws down an auto turret. A couple Lings come in to tank that damage away. Oh, he's going to save all of his drones, so nice move with those Lings. Going to deny that harassment. In the meantime, trying once again to clear a little bit with these Marines, but I'm not sure how much damage he's really going to get done.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. This is actually kind of interesting to see him going into tanks and yet going for, well, what he wanted to go for this phase. Obviously didn't work out. And in fact, Medivac is very, very low. Because usually if you see them starting to beep-bop around and hop around and just use that multitasking, we see them include those Widow Mines. They're the faster unit, they don't have to siege. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wouldn't mind to see the Widow Mines here against the Ling Bane. He is adding a second factory, but he's still making tanks.
Yeah.
So I do wonder, like, is he going to grab the armory? Is he going to get drilling claws? Or are we actually going to have two-factory siege tank with bio going up against a Ling Bane opening? I honestly don't like that.
If he gets into the sticky position, which maybe he's heading towards now, the middle, basically, of Gres spawn, I mean, it can be very abusive, but I think more often, absolutely, we see that being used for drilling claws and a combination of the two. Very effective at really complicating how the Zerg takes the engagement. It's not going to be trying to abuse that middle position, just heading right again to that top base, abusing this cliff, in fact. And Dark is going to have to think about giving up this base. This is really quite entrenched.
Definitely a great position going down, getting into those mines. Now, if he does use them together, that is amazing. I'd love to see that. Now, Ling Bane counterattack coming in. Nice little stim there, trying to run back, targeting with that tank as best he can. We see in that little picture-in-picture, the Raven being pushed back. Very much damage on that. And it looks like this hatchery is going to fall. Dark's going to give it up.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, though. I think his run-by was really supposed to do a little bit more. Somehow the SCVs managed to dodge and weave, so not literally every single one of them died between the Banelings. 13 is still a decent number, but it didn't really interrupt ByuN that much either. I feel like there is a lot more potential. There can be more potential with that run-by to also get something done on the main army, just because they're paying attention to multiple areas, but not so much. Dark's going to have to accept his hatch loss. Still is on, actually even go up to 5 bases, 6 bases even. And he does have that hive. Like, he's been kind of like behind the scenes doing that this entire time while dealing with this little, you know, hit squad of units. And Vipers are already on the way. Ultralisk Cavern as well. We know Ultra is very effective when it's just pure Marines, right? And then Marauders come in and there's still absolutely a chance for the Ultras to be good.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of Ultras. I've felt for a long time like they're actually a little bit undervalued, and especially with that smaller size nowadays, right? Like, they definitely can do their job, and certainly one of the best defensive units, which can allow Dark to really get into the exact range of drones he wants. You know, he's been up 70 plus for a while, pushing up a little bit more while harassing, and of course definitely wants to get that creep forward a bit more than he's got it.
Really wonder how often ByuN gets away with a unharassed 4th orbital in this matchup. I did see him go for the middle base where his army currently is, and I thought that kind of made sense that the Zerg was also expanding in a similar direction. You're kind of attacking and defending a base, but this is just so far to the left. Run-bys are going to be insistent. Run-bys over here with the burrow that Dark loves to abuse, and then run-bys over on the right side as well. And hey, if this game does go very long, we've seen Nidus Worms. We're on that hive technology. I don't believe the Ultras are out yet, but the Vipers are, so a parasitic bomb will come down. Not a very large number of Medivacs anyway, as this is finally going to be completely removed. Well, Medivac didn't quite die, but it is going to be tracked and probably taken care of.
Yeah, I don't know how much more damage that will get done, but ByuN's still staying pretty active on the map. He's got a good, solid amount of supply, very healthy SCV count. His 2-2 is going to finish up before the Ling 2-2 as well. But Ultras are on the way. Pathogen Gland's about to finish. So Dark's army quality is about to explode.
It's a little scary, actually. I mean, if we combine it with a couple of Moon Rolls, or Blinding Cloud even to push the bio forward, that's their instinct, because they're really stupid, apparently. But we're not quite there on the Spellcasters yet, and the Ultras are about to pop. And they will be able to maybe mix in with the Ling Baneling. We see her on the creep. ByuN is going to pull it back, but I think it might be temporary as he's looking to hone in on this position once again. More distraction on that left side. It's just, you don't even need that many links. That's exactly what Dark is doing every single, like, 20 seconds. 6 links should cook it around, right?
Yeah, it's getting kind of funny at this point. Like, maybe you should take that a bit more seriously. Okay, you want a planetary? Okay. Can we get a bunker? Can we put a couple mines over there? Maybe make some depots so the Lings take more time to get to your SCVs. But ByuN is being a little bit stubborn with it.
A little. Big drop on top of Dark's, I don't know, that's 6th or 7th base at this point, but the main engagement will be happening over here on the left side. Dark got his Ultras, he's got his Ling Baneling, he's looking for the big wraparound as well. Give the Ultras a big ol' hug. He's not not been able to get it, and the Woodamines pop off on the rest of the Lings, leaving the Ultras, well, not quite alone. They're looking lonelier. As the Command Center does lift, will not go down. The Ultras finally get the chomp down on the bio and do get some pretty decent swipes, as another orbital is also burning.
Yeah, I almost wanted to say he should pull those back, but they bought some extra time. He almost got the Command Center kill because of that as well. In the meantime, that drop at the right-hand side, that 12, or not 12, but top right hatchery has gone down. Continuing to try to deal some damage over here. It will get cleaned up. Both sides dealing quite a bit of damage to each other.
Yeah, that was an intense 20 seconds right there. Like everything that happened all at once. Lots of worker damage, economic damage, chaos, and again, these Command Centers are burning. This one's on repair. I assume the left one also is getting repaired. Yes, very slowly, and I'm a little concerned by that because Dark has once again, you know, the timer's in his head.
Yeah.
Send the Lings on over there, but at least the bio is around. We do have the distracting Nidus Worm getting cleaned up yet again, and the burrow not being nearly as tricky, but things have had to reset a little. ByuN has had to take some time to clean everything up on his side of the map. I always love the Ultra Burrow.
It's amazing. It's amazing to see him try to do that, hide an Ultra down at the bottom of the map, burrow it away, but will get chased out right there. Once again, trying to clear up all this harassment, just refusing to put any sort of real defense there. In the meantime, Dark does, Dark's multitasking here, I really love. You know, shift clicking those Lings around like you've been mentioning, all the burrows that he's setting up where he can just unburrow it whenever, or his opponent will scan and take care of it. That Overlord on the left side has been moved up to the top left so he can keep throwing Niduses down. ByuN's having a hard time. He hasn't put on an attack in a while now.
This is an insanely fast game, by the way, from both of them. I mean, for a little while it was just Dark maybe shift clicking and sending units, but now it's just units every single which way that we look. Nidus Worm somehow on the back of the main base at this point, and ByuN does not see this one. It does have units inside, so while the front line Lings are being taken care of, there we have the Nidus Worm spilling forth with those now +3 melee Lings. They're going to chop down on the SCVs as well as on top of the production, and of course, they're going to burrow. So ByuN's going to have to you know, scan his main base 3 times to ensure that there's no more left over.
It's killing me that he hasn't just made a Viking to clear out that Overlord that's caused 3 Niduses so far. You know, this is, I feel like at this point, Dark is really outplaying ByuN. The fact that he is continually hitting everywhere at once and ByuN is just not setting up anything to stop it, ByuN's in a lot of trouble at this point. He is trying to get another attack going on, but I can't imagine him actually killing a base here, right?
I don't know, like he does have one of the positions now that is favorable to him. Like it's going to be unlikely, I think, that he's going to be collapsed in on without, of course, him microing, which we know he's very good at. Most of the Woodamines had already popped off, and the fungal from the backside was not what I was accounting for. That is an excellent maneuver that Dark is known for. Forced now to pick up and evacuate back to his reinforcements, which do look like they'll be in big enough numbers to kind of turn this around again.
Yeah, it looks like his reinforcements are going to push those back. It looked like his army was broken for a moment, but oh my god, some great Banes in there. Oh, I didn't even notice that myself.
No, I did not.
Very nicely done by Dark, but ByuN is going to evacuate that area and go elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, where is the next target, I suppose? It's hard to say, as he has expanded to the bottom, or to the left, and of course increasingly more to the bottom left. If he changes positions, then those orbitals, you know, the same orbital is going to continue being vulnerable. Good lord. Finally place some Woodamines there at the very least, but now there's just not an army, as a lot of Darks comes in here. Last second split against the Woodamines, and more SCVs will fall. Nidus from the main base finally taken care of. I mean, he has taken care of most of them, but all it takes is 1 in 20 Lings to really ruin your day.
It surely does. And, you know, ByuN continuing to put some pressure on, but his economy is really small right now. He only has 47 SCVs, but also he's running them around a lot, trying to not lose them. In the meantime, look at that. A beautiful fungal goes down, and Dark is going to push back ByuN once again. Turns around as his Ultras are taking a lot of damage. But, you know, ByuN, this is not a guy that gives up easily.
No, he's not. And again, he is playing almost equally as fast. Like, the fact that he's defending and attacking with such a really vulnerable composition. I know Marauders are kind of chonky, and Woodamines can be as explosive on the Ling side, but, you know, you get surrounded or fungled once, and you're super clumped up, that's it, you're dead. So he's been avoiding that, despite all the distractions.
Well, another drop going down there against Dark. Dark still has several mining bases right now, sending Lings up to try to defend. Just mostly Ling Ultra being produced. Finally, I think the Niduses over in that main base area are going to be dealt with. I guess that Overlord maybe came in a little bit too far, finally got picked off, despite the fact there was no Viking made. But the Ling attacks, it feels like they're about to slow down.
It does seem that way. It actually feels like ByuN has managed to control the chaos, you know, put it back into a box that he is now comfortable with. A fungal goes off on the front line bio, but there's still a lot of backline bio. They can actually take care of the Lings, take care of the Ultras. The run by doesn't quite work out, but it looks like the Lings flooding in. Oh, the friendly fire. Also not working in ByuN's favor. Will push ByuN back. I mean, again, both dealing some damage to each other, but this time, right, Dark with 92 workers to ByuN's 35. The game goes on any longer. It just keeps getting better and better for Dark.
Dude, what a great changeling that was, walking all the way back there. Some Marauders up here at the top right. Being very, very annoying. Of course, the Ling Queen is going to be able to deal with that. More Infestors coming out. The Infestors have actually been quite heroic this game. These Fungals we've seen over and over have really lined up for clearing ByuN's army more than I think he expected.
Yeah, ByuN is definitely at that Terran stage. Low economy, but an army supply lead, right? So if he just gets that one really good engagement, then he could snowball that into victory, you know? If it starts at the 3rd or the 4th of Dark, that's a snowball right there. So that's where the Fungals are also going to come really handy, not just to maybe get the beautiful fungal that takes care of everything, but just to buy some time, because Dark is going to need that as the supplies for the armies still in favor for ByuN.
Yeah, but look at Dark's drone count. He's up in those numbers that he loves so much. I'm actually really impressed, by the way, with the amount of Infestors he's continuing to field, and they are working out for him very, very well, especially considering we haven't seen a single ghost this game.
Gosh, yeah, I forgot they existed. Sorry. Like
Me too, for a moment. But then I'm like, hold on. What counters Ultralisks and Infestors? There isn't anything. This is broken. Oh, wait a minute. The Ghost does.
No, and I was absolutely thinking about that as I thought this might be one of those slower games. But of course, ByuN does like his very action-packed late game. But that has something to do with him maybe not getting those Ghosts. Talk about that in a second. Big engagement right now on the field as we have a Fungal come in at the last second as well to really help those Ultras clean up the bio. Medevac's also on the wrong side. Need to go back over to the left to clear and help out those. Like, there's like 8 Marauders up there that might just get sliced by a couple of Ultras. Oh, no, he really needs those. Now the supply, and the army supply in particular, now looking good for Dark.
Oh, man, and those Infestors coming up. Now, guys, you may think this is a great time to throw out Infested Terrans, but let me tell you, that was patched out. So, unable to kill that base with pure Infestor.
Oh, darn, man. I was looking forward to them not being affected by armor. Shoot. Oh, no, I think Dark has finally got it. You know, it was still on a very difficult, it was on like a precipice, right? Like if ByuN got a good engagement, if he was able to just be like, no, you attack me when I'm prepared, then Dark really could have screwed up. But a couple of the fights just too difficult to control, basically. There's too much Zerg at this point as well, and too many spellcasters.
You know, I gotta say, like, ByuN does look like he is going to end up losing this game, but I love the way that he's played this very tempo-oriented, very aggressive, in-your-face style. Honestly, if he had a little bit of defense at home against some of these Ling run-bys, he may have taken it just based off of that alone.
Yeah, every time he did get his army back onto Dark side of the map, we could feel how threatening he was.
Yeah.
But it spent so much of its time back at home. So, you know, take away half of the harassment, the Lings on the 4th and Nice in the main, and it's such a different game. I know we just saw the Ultras mostly sacrifice themselves for a planetary, but ByuN just doesn't have the supply to make that like a worthwhile trade. Dark still has plenty more where that came from.
Yeah, GG going to be called there. And I got to tell you, that was actually a really fantastic game from both sides. Dark definitely seemed to be in control for a big portion of it, but it was close enough that if he had maybe missed 1 to 2 small Ling harassments, ByuN may have been able to rally through it, kill an extra base, and that would have turned the tides.
And that's really something we've seen from ByuN previously in that mid to late game TVZ, where he gets so much speed. You know, he's like chugga as a train, like he builds up his 3cc and his 4th orbital, and then it's just like it's bolting off, and you cannot stop it. And when that happens, the world's best Zergs can struggle to send in those 5 or 6 Slings, can struggle to take the time to build that Nidus Worm. He really does take control off of a very greedy setup, and Dark just refused to let that happen.
Well, you know, ByuN, he has like a lot of different ways that he can end up playing in this matchup, right? Like he can go for instance, you know, the heavier mech units. We've seen that already. And maybe this is a game where he would have been in better shape, like had he gone for those ghosts. But sometimes when you look at that and you say, well, the ghost counters these 2 units that he's making. It's like, well, if he takes the time to hit that transition, that's where Dark is going to run away with the game. So we can't be like too critical of the way he played it.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up before the really the deciding fight happened. It was a little more important, but the ghosts, the way that ByuN uses them, it's almost like they don't slow down the game, but only if he gets them in a comfortable place, you know? But he was, you know, from the start almost not really comfortable, and so adding on the ghost at that point would have absolutely slowed him down and opened up an opportunity for Dark to, you know, kill him faster than he ended up doing.
Well, Dark right here, he's going to be feeling pretty good for pulling that game back. Of course, whoever ends up winning this is going to have those very important 3 victories to go to that round of 8, right? So a huge, huge game coming up between these two. Both of these guys, in my opinion, top 4 caliber, right?
Yes.
Like they absolutely, like whoever wins here, I would expect actually to basically do that at this point.
Yes, yeah. I mean, both of them making the most recent GSLs of this year, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we also, again, have both of them being global champions. Dark, you know, more recently, but nonetheless showing the caliber of player. You know, it's the class doesn't disappear, right?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, like I've mentioned this a few times, but I'm completely certain ByuN is a much, much better player, not just because everyone's a better player from back then, because obviously like the worst player in this tournament would win the World Championship back in 2015 or whatever, but ByuN is like such a full player at this point. He has a big range. Back then when he won everything, you know, he was kind of in a very small box. It was like Reapers and the 2-1-1 build, and that carried him. At this point, like, he does have this big range. We've seen 2 completely different games out of him.
Yes, that is very true. That's, that was definitely the highlight of his BlizzCon and GSL wins. Well, his GSL wins was Protoss, but still. It was those 2 builds, which he also kind of came back into after military service. He came back in and was like, those still 2 builds. And we're like, no, it's not. Like, you know, calm down. He's like, no, it really is, trust me, and he kind of made it work for a while.
A little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, I think he did. Like, he really did make people wonder again if that could come back, and we saw the iterations on it as well, right? You know, it's definitely not the old 2-1-1 off of 2 bases that is super telegraphable and just, you know, Zergs deal with it no problem.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I really like his new style. I love the fact that he's doing the 3 Reaper opener a lot. It really kind of conceals what you're doing next. It plays into a lot of his skills as well. I haven't seen him do it in a while, but occasionally he's gone 3 racks Reaper as well, with the 2 at the front, 1 in the main. Yeah. You know, it gives him a lot of variety that the Zerg player really has to kind of worry about.
Yes.
And that specifically for ByuN, I think is important because, as you said, a lot of his previous builds were telegraphed very heavily. Like, you kind of knew in the old days what ByuN was going to do to you before he did it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the 2-1-1 was just such a... I see more than 1 Marine. Like, okay.
Yeah.
There we go. And then the 5-minute defense, the Zergs were just all on top of it. And then we had a 3CC version, which was good enough for a while and is still done, of course, but that also had its, you know, okay, now it's 5:30. I still know how to defend against it exactly. But the 2 racks that ByuN did initially, I would say like a year ago, whatever it was, I was really hesitant to believe that it could make it a meta. And then throughout 2023, I've just cemented my belief that it absolutely is.
Absolutely.
Like, now we have all of the other Terrans also trying to incorporate it or just straight up doing so like Maru did.
It's a good build. Like, I was kind of surprised when I first saw it really popping up and really getting utilized a lot, but it's like, yeah, that second barracks doesn't actually slow the economy that much. And then suddenly you have a lot more pressure right after it. Definitely a big fan of that. I wouldn't be too surprised if he goes for that again, but you know what I feel like has been missing? There's this one build for TVZ that has an unbelievable win rate. I might have never seen it lost in a tournament. That we haven't, I don't think I've seen it at all yet here at Gamers8.
No, it actually has been quite rare, I would say, over the last couple of months from any of the TVZs. We had the option to go into the 2 racks at home. Just too tempting, I suppose. We do have our final game of this best of 3 now underway on Neo Humanity. In the top left for DKZ, he is Dark.
And his opponent not going for that 2 racks Reaper opener. It is ByuN. I wonder if we're about to see a command center first out of ByuN.
I think so. That's basically his 2 builds.
Right?
Oh my god, it's a 3rd build.
Oh, man.
Oh my god.
Well, I knew the second you said that it wasn't going to be a command center first.
Of course, yeah. No, it really has been 2 for a lot of his series. So, you know, 2 racks and then 1 command center first, or 3 and 2 or whatever it is. So the fact that he does come out with this, I think I have seen him do this on particularly Neo Humanity. I don't recall exactly what it leads into. That gives it you know, makes it like basically like why do this as opposed to the other 2, because as much as it's funny that he has 2 openers and only 2, you know, sometimes they are really good, and their follow-ups can be just, you know, anything. So why going back to this on Neo Humanity?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm interested to see where he's going to end up going with it. From Dark's side here, we don't have any gas yet. Drone coming out. Is he going to take that really quick 3rd? Didn't we see him do this earlier in the tournament where we went 3 hatch off of no gas?
I think so. Yeah. I'm not sure I counted.
Yeah,
I think he was talking about it,
Yeah, so really interesting to see. That's a very quick 3rd base with no gas, of course. You're not going to be able to get Zergling speed out very quickly. It can be a little bit hard against some builds to end up defending this, but he's actually chosen a perfect scenario for this. There's no Reapers on the way or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like when he does this sometimes, even against the Reapers, just because if he's really good at controlling his queens and his lings and then dodging them, you know, with the micro, the drones, then he can even make that look surprisingly good. Whereas I think we saw Solar basically do the opposite, which was an earlier hatch for earlier queens, and then that was not super successful. But he didn't do it here in Gamers8. Anyway, like the openers have also kind of changed up here as I think a response to a lot of the 2 racks from the Terrans. But yeah, in this situation, ByuN not going to have anything to pressure or, you know, really scout a lot. So it's going to be a while before he knows exactly what he's up against. The first Hellion is on the way, and it is only 1 Artosis. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's not very scary at all.
No,
You're not going to get many kills with a Hellion going across the map.
But this is reminiscent to what ByuN was doing before he settled on the forward 2 racks. He was doing a lot of the still off builds, like not just typical reactor Hellions. He was going into the early Medivac drop, maybe even a Cyclone. We had some other Terrans even use this opener to go into like a fast battle cruiser, just like a year ago, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, well, okay, you can see he actually changed his mind, or habit got to him, whatever it was.
Probably just a Banshee going to be popping out here. Oh, Cloak and a Medivac.
All right.
Does he know the Medivacs do not cloak?
He's like, I thought this was a Caduceus reactor. No, I think just realizing, right, that is, you know, it's an optimal build at that point, I suppose. It's enough for both upgrade and unit. And the Hellion is just literally for scouting. Now, this is a tell-off. Even Dark had a Ling going to the natural, actually, and already, there's also an Overlord. There you go. But I was going to say 1 Hellion is a tell that something weird is happening.
The Overlord going to live just long enough to see that Medivac and tries to kind of boost forward there, but spots it. And look at this. This is so funny. He cancels Cloak that's over halfway done after the Medivac gets spotted and makes a Banshee.
Yep.
So, I mean... There's a lot of little mind games, a lot of little switch-ups going on. And in fact, look, there's 3 spores on the way, so I guess that the Cloak fake there worked out.
Yeah, and he still has a Banshee to play around with. Again, could be used for some harassment, not much, but also very good at defending against the Roaches. As far as the early game, sure, but also even the mid-game, helping out with the, you know, run-bys and whatnot. 2 Overlords taken down already by this Medivac already makes it a success to me.
Yeah, that's some pain right there from Dark. Definitely not going to be too happy with that. Getting the Roach Horn now, so it looks like he is going to go into his kind of standard Roach-based play. Of course, his economy getting into a really, really good spot here, right? There hasn't been any real harassment other than, you know, these Marines killing a couple Overlords.
Yeah.
A Hellion chased 3 drones away for a moment. No one cares about that. So his drone count, the fact that his 3rd hatchery is this quick and he's got so many larvae, the fact that he's got all these different mineral patches to saturate right away. Dark's economy is fantastic this game.
Another Overlord does go down.
Oh my
I mean, we're not
gosh.
expecting very much more. Like, you're making excellent points. Kind of the foundation is still untouched for Dark.
Yeah.
But it's definitely more than you would expect to lose against the single Medivac drop. But Dark does also love 1-1 Roach pushes on this map. He really enjoys it. There's been a couple of times where the Terran players have simply mishandled the formation of their defense on this map. But I think think that was kind of rare. That was being a GSL. And now Terrans, for the most part, know where to place their units.
Yeah.
But it still depends on how the game has gone to that point.
Well, that forward third, it is a little bit wide open, so I kind of get the idea behind that 1-1 timing push. And, you know, Dark, the thing is, I think also with this, when you see the Roach Ravager, you see the 2 Evos, against most Zergs, you're going to say, oh, it's the push. But with him, actually, he will just macro it into Hive and stuff. Like, he does not have to do the maxed out, let's just go, let's force you to lift that third base.
Yeah, no, he absolutely can. And I would say for probably like a solid 2 months, that was literally the only thing he was doing. The 1-1 was starting to get kind of suspect, like, did it exist? Is it only a fake? Is it only to make the Terran worry? And then he started bringing it back, and particularly on this map, but you're right to call it. The Invitation Pit does go down and again, similar to that first game where we had that sort of abrupt ending, because Dark was also trying to get into a Hydralisk Den, which I was assuming was for lurkers, but we didn't even get to talk about it because the game ended.
yeah. I'm like, wait, what Hydralisk Den? Oh, okay. Yeah, so that 1-1 a little bit over halfway done. ByuN's lined up pretty darn well with that. Combat Shield's still coming. Looks like ByuN wants to start clearing the middle of the map a little bit. Maybe we can get some parade pushing going on as his armory starts in very good time there to keep those upgrades flowing. And yeah, it looks like ByuN is getting ready to try to push into that very close 4th base.
It's still a very scary Terran army. Dark's not quite prepared for this. He doesn't have 1-1. And he doesn't have Roach speed. Not that the Ravagers really care about that, and they did finally form, but very scary not to be able to pounce given an opportunity because your Roach is just a little bit much slower. But I don't know if ByuN really wants to push into someone who could be doing the 1-1 Roach only. That's the tricky part.
Yeah, that's for sure. You would never feel so stupid as you're about to make top 8 at Gamers8, and you push into 1-1 Max Roach. It's like the worst case scenario. But ByuN, you know, he's being careful about it. He's backed up. He's setting up some siege tanks. And I think he's got to get that intel because the Hive is about halfway done. Spire on the way. Infester's coming up as well.
Kind of ran into that, actually.
Dude, actually, he pulled the Roaches to the right to make the Banshee move into it. That was beautiful.
Nicely done. And ByuN was probably really looking forward to having that Banshee. That's free scouting on where the Roach Ravager moves, and then also on whether it's a maxed out Roach Ravager. Otherwise, trying to fly your medevac over is just a little bit... you know, you just don't want to do that. It is going to be for the Hive, of course, which I'm guessing ByuN has figured out by this point. This medevac's been around a little while, and we are having a Spire alongside that. Okay, well, the scan then was necessary. It did scout the Hive. What it did not scout was that Spire, which I want to say is so perfectly timed. We could have fast Greater Spire, faster Broodlords, which on a map that really does just kind of condense itself down to this single lane in the middle, they're pretty good, if you know, particularly if they're a surprise.
Well, I think especially if your opponent does like the double factory siege tank, which ByuN has already shown against Roach that he actually does want to go for. So yeah, I'm looking at this, and if he does focus more heavily on those siege tanks and suddenly Broodlords are there, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like this play from Dark, absolutely, because if he can successfully hide it too, it's probably going to be game over. I think we saw some of this initially on this map when it first popped out earlier in the year, but then it is kind of tricky if they do figure it out. Then you kind of just don't even want to go for Broodlords because they can start dropping and start using the other lanes on Neo-Humanity or just, frankly, like get Ghosts, which we haven't seen quite yet.
Well, if you add the double factory, maybe you add some Thors in there, and we can get into one of these nice games that lasts forever. Some Roaches actually being picked off there from Dark, getting rid of his own supply. I love moves like that. Comes in, forces these back. By the way, I did want to mention, we were talking about other things, but the defense in the main base against drops, the 3 Spore plus the Lings, this I really like because I swear, if you go back through Korean StarCraft 2 for the last 12 years, anytime you just have Spores in there, you lose everything in your main.
Yeah. No, they're a little annoying, but if there's nothing else, the Terran's obviously going to go for it. So really nice defense there. And then the presumption is that you can basically defend the front lines. Not maybe totally and completely, but you can buy time. You know, do this and then pull back, right? So if you did have to pull those Lings from the main, you could. But the Broodlords are on the way, guys, and I'm still pretty sure that ByuN doesn't know about them.
He has no idea.
The Ghost Academy is on the way, but as you're making the Ghost and the Broodlords pop up on your 4th, or I guess 5th, actually, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah, 5 Broods started, and then 4 Marauders and a tank started. That's how I know for sure he has no idea. This is not what you want. You know, he does have a big army. He does have a lot of damage output, so we'll see what he does. But I really like Dark's position here for the next minute or two. Like, this looks like an excellent opportunity for Dark to really pull far ahead this game.
Dude, he just scanned the Greater Spire, and it's like, oh my god, how long has it been there? Oh god, it's been there for a little while. The Broodlords are already on your front lines. ByuN is going to have to deal with those. You know, he tries to evacuate the 5th base, and it's just like a little bit of a hop over to his 4th, right? So he has to deal with it somehow, but he doesn't really have a strong answer. The tanks, they're going to pretty much sacrifice themselves, hopefully buy time. The Marines shoot at the Broodlings as long as they can, but versus the rest of the Zerg army that's just waiting to encroach as soon as the tank's on siege.
It's certainly a brilliant move for ByuN to drop into that main base. He's trying to buy some time with that, but there's enough under these Broodlords. You can't really close on them here quite yet. A couple Vikings starting to come out, and he can definitely build that count up where the Broodlords are going to have our time, but we see a lot of tanks starting to go down here.
Oh yeah, the Queens are off the creep, so not particularly helpful, actually. They're kind of tanking, which is an odd choice there. The Ling Baneling does come forward with the Ravagers. Ling's now in every nook and cranny of the mineral on the top of the tanks, taking every one of them out. Supplies somehow remain even, but it looks like the swarm is here on ByuN's front door.
Oh man, a lot of damage. 25 plus SCVs going to be falling here. The base is in bad shape here for ByuN. You can see the look on his face as the Broodlords have caught him completely off guard.
Yeah, but the Hive just went down. The last Broodlord, like literally the last one, is actually almost dead. A couple of Corrosive Biles probably should not be hitting. ByuN should not give up hope quite yet. It's closer than it might appear, especially as the SCVs successfully make a wall, gonna make those Roach Ravagers clump up. The tank got a lot of shots. More reinforcements coming in, but if, you know, at one point at a time, save those Broods to the main base, and you might actually have a chance.
And look at this, the last couple Broodlords have floated up here. The Viking is going to clear them, but look at this, a healed SCV taking out Broodlings. Roaches and Ravagers getting up into this main base. They are going to get cleaned up too. Look at the stats on this game. We're 50 to 50 workers. The armies are just cleaned up. Everything's on fire. Upgrades are just now finishing. This is an insane game, and honestly, like, neither of them should leave right now. It's too hectic. They need to sit down and figure this one out.
Yeah, exactly. This is now a bit of a puzzle. I mean, it's one that I think ByuN is going to win out on. This feels like an especially good moment for Terran as a race. You know, like, everything's in disarray, but thankfully you can finally land the orbitals, drop down the mules. You're packing together your army as opposed to having them caught when they pop out as well, which just gives you so much power. And Dark, I mean, he's doing what he should do as a Zerg player, I think, which is to settle on economy first and then spellcasters.
Well, I definitely agree with your take on that. I gotta say, like, right when he realized it was the Greater Spire, he boosts in the main base of the Medivacs, then picks up, goes the corner, and then goes back in and redrops, takes out the Hive. And as that was happening, I feel like that's why Dark lost his entire army, because he's like, oh no, we got to do more damage here. And he got a lot of damage, there's no question. But losing that entire army, it's taking him a while to rebuild it. But I like where he's going. Infestor, you know, Ravager, this is good stuff for Dark.
This is the comeback mechanic. This is the comeback composition for Zerg, as you know, especially for Dark. So I do have still some hope in Dark's play, but it just is very apparent that ByuN, Terran has been able to recover faster. The orbitals landed back on the field. That planetary held strong, and the units are again all together and in good, you know, upgrades and technology. So back to tanks, Medivacs goes 3-3 upgrades. Dark is going to be very much an uphill battle after such a strong strategic moment right there. The Broodlord showing up as ByuN was not quite prepared. Felt like it was going to be game over, but then not actually jumping on top of the production with, frankly, just more units, right? He didn't actually camp it. He was so close to it, but not quite.
And actually didn't have a real answer for the Vikings that were popping out as well. Like, he had 4 queens that just walked forward into death, and obviously off creep, they're not gonna be as useful. So kind of tough there. Definitely a little bit of mismanagement from Dark, but you really do have to hand it to ByuN for some of that hard counterattack decision making that he made, because we actually like showed his face during it. He was shaking his head. He's like, oh, I'm dead. And here we are. Look at this. ByuN is maxed out. Dark is not.
Yes, but it does seem like Dark might be able to get a chance, because the thing is that ByuN did shake his head. He was, you know, very concerned about having to tap out here. So that means that he's not going to, you know, no one would really know exactly how the game goes after that. right? And especially ByuN, who thought he was actually about to lose, he's going to be second-guessing himself even as he finally gets some scouting done. And of course, he's going to think back to some other games versus Dark in particular, where he thinks he's winning and then he runs into fumbles.
But, you know, the one thing I can say for ByuN here is he's really getting a very strong composition as well. There's a lot of Ghosts mixed in there. You know, we do have some Liberators. He's getting into the Fusion Core. So I feel like he's giving himself the right tools that even if maybe he's not sure that he's ahead of Dark, he's gonna figure it out, right? The game, like, there's no way that ByuN is going to die anytime soon.
Yeah, no, he definitely made the right decision there. I think maybe there was an opportunity when he was still ahead in supply to do something offensively, but it's just so dangerous. At the end of the day, he really did not have to. So now, you know, certainly confirmed in his decision and his gut feeling to do what he did. Now heading into what is now, I guess, a supreme late game. We went down 110 supply, or sub 100 for Dark, actually. We thought the game was going to be over, and it's just like, just kidding, Neo Humanity's still a 30-minute game.
Well, yeah, we are getting into that supreme late game, as you say. Look at this, 3 more factories, 5 command centers on the way. And Dark, you know, he's remaking his hive. He's got a lot of his own spellcasters. You know, for him, the Ravager kind of is a spellcaster. Even this late into the game, he's just so good with it. But there's zero opportunity for Dark to attack, right? Like, there's so many siege tanks out there.
Yep.
I don't see a way. Like, yeah, he's got those Broodlords, but I feel like if Dark wins this, the game is very long.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, exactly. And I don't really think I have the most confidence in Dark's late game, actually. Like, he's very scrappy, and he's certainly, I'm sorry, but he's very scrappy, and he has some really epic late game examples. I mean, I remember watching him versus, well, Time at the time, you know, being down to literally just like 1 fungal versus 1 ghost. Like, they've been insane. But he has been looking a little bit shakier, and we know from interviewing him that he's just like, he doesn't want to be in these positions. He would love to have ended the game earlier, as he also does point to his age for that, of course. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, because then I guess we also have to worry about ByuN and his health, both, I suppose, mentally, but like literally physically. This is a type of situation which he has in the past started to shake that hand, you know, really like second guess some of the maneuvering and even tap out.
Well, honestly, I think a lot of that with ByuN is mental, right?
Yeah,
so, I feel like he's in a good enough position here that hopefully that doesn't occur to him. I just want to see a clean, fair fight from here on out, because the game has been absolutely fantastic so far. A lot of back and forth moments, very interesting tech switches. Like, even these compositions that we're looking at right now are very, very exciting.
Ooh, yes! I didn't expect one so early on, but the neural to the friendly EMP right there is not going to create many openings, but I'm getting hyped for the potential, because they really have reset into as if that base trade situation never happened.
Yeah, they have.
It's actually kind of crazy. 19 minutes in Neo Humanity, you look at it and like, what happened? They was like super passive. It's like, no, at one point they were both almost dead, and now Dark has the appropriate bank for a Zerg player, and ByuN has the appropriate army supply for its Aaron.
Yes, a very good way to put it, indeed. You know, right now, those fringe bases really going to be what they are arguing over. Obviously, Dark has a little bit more economy-wise, but ByuN is working towards that. He's got a lot of orbitals. He can actually start trading in a few more SCVs if he wants. Obviously, you can utilize scans really heavily, which will help against those infestors as well. And still adding in some more high-quality units like these Thors.
Yes, yeah. ByuN's really getting into one of the ultimate late-game Terran compositions, which you move basically in the mech. I mean, it's spooky mech, as you guys
Yeah,
like,
spooky mech.
It's Ghost, Thor, Hellbat, which currently that's the only thing that's missing. But, you know, those Hellbats I'm not sure are like strictly, well, no, they're still very helpful in the main army. But oftentimes on a different type of map, we see those Hellbats as the best addition to tanks to covering run-bys.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's where I usually, you know, really favorable seeing them. We finally have one on the way.
Yeah, honestly, I am a fan of tanks in this composition as well, and I actually really, really like Thor Liberator Ghost.
Yeah,
that is a very fun composition to watch as well. Don't know exactly where he's going to go, because he's getting every upgrade that exists, basically, at this point. Does lose a couple ghosts there, but that's not going to be the end of the world. There's still a lot of resources on this map. Both of them have a very big bank and are maxed out. So there's like so much play on both sides at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a brand new game from what we were watching before. Like, I was quite certain it was going to end one way and then the other way and then the other way, and now this is going to go 40 minutes.
I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to just be able to pick a 15-minute game and say, I'm going to play from there. But I feel like that's what they did. It's crazy. It's actually going into a standard super late game in which, again, I'm a little more concerned for Dark, but it's not that he loses every time it goes past 20 minutes. And he's getting into, I would say, a smart composition, to be honest, especially in the online tournaments. Dark has seemed almost experimental in the late game, like he's really trying to figure something out that works better for him, but it doesn't look that pretty. I mean, I feel like it often ends into the mass Broodlord spellcaster versus the Terran built up, but that really is the key there, is like mass Broodlord spellcaster, not 12, you know, it's like, but like 20.
Yeah, like you need the Broodlings to absolutely zone out everything so that Thors don't just completely body your entire army. You know, I think that's the big thing there. You know, you need the Ghosts getting hit, all the Thors being held back. So he is, I mean, we keep seeing him add Broodlords in. He's going to continue to do that. He's throwing down some extra spines. Probably we'll see a lot of those going down, a lot of spores going down, those types of things. But look at this, now Liberators being added in as well.
Yep. Getting to that really perfect composition. So incredibly difficult for the Zerg to tackle as well. The range from the air, as well as the range from the ground in the form of the Ghost often, and then the tankiness of the Thor, and the efficiency of the Hellbat, so on and so forth. Like, it's just so good. And ByuN's going to go ahead and sacrifice some SCVs to make his main army even better, as he also approaches 10,000 minerals.
Yeah. These guys, by the way, at this point, have almost every single upgrade. We're getting very, very close to that, like the building armor, finishing up. I don't believe we have Raven energy, and we might not end up seeing this, right?
That.
Oh, yeah. Well, then that's why we really don't have it. By the way, guys, no more Raven energy. That's right, that last Raven patch. I forgot about that.
We're missing Banshee Cloak.
We're missing Banshee speed.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I want to see Banshees arrive in 50 minutes.
What would you do with Banshees here?
Snipe all the bases before the fungals come. Like.
Yeah. Just use 6 scans to go in and make sure that nothing is coming so you can get out in time. Honestly, not a bad move. All right, so yeah, the nuke going to be picked off right there.
This is actually kind of awkward, man.
Yeah. Good kills.
ByuN was not prepared to really take a true engagement. He did not have the correct layering. Terrans are layered. They need the Hellbats, then the Ghosts, and then the Thors or whatever. Thors and then the Ghosts. Like, that was just awkward. Dark got a lot of almost freebies there. Yeah,
he grabbed him by the Liberators and put him in a chokehold there. And ByuN does have to back up. He'll be able to remake all that. All right, like ByuN is sitting here on 10K, 5K, but 11K, 5K for Dark.
I love that everyone's just going for the historic broadcast record.
Seriously, we've had so many big, long games today, especially on the B stream. Like, there was one of the games on the B stream today, the combined bank for both players was 50,000 resources. It's like, there's that much on these maps?
Yeah, exactly. Dude, speaking of resources, the resources lost between the two are so crazy similar.
Yeah, that's very close for right now.
Considering the base trade, but then also the way that TDZ is supposed to work out, which is that the Terran is supposed to be more efficient. I guess there really haven't been... There's been quite a few minutes, I guess, where there hasn't been a super big engagement. The last one being, those free abducts on the Thors. Both of them, as you can see, managing to... reach over that 10,000 mineral, 5,000 gas, and still more minerals and gas to mine on Neo-Humanity.
Well, it's kind of funny how many bases haven't been mined at all, really, at this point. Both sides starting to push in a little bit. The Broodlord's coming up, getting some big volleys, but here come the snipes.
Yeah, the Fungals aren't paying attention to help out. A lot of Broodlord's going to go down. It could have been worse, I suppose. He could only be so courageous with those Ghosts after all. But we do have the Thors continuing to march forward, take out this hatchery, which was becoming increasingly more useless, but now we're encroaching on the reinforcement path. Dark has got to put the stop right here, because if he is going to have to remax, and it's pretty likely, he doesn't want 2 of his hatcheries or his technology being camped and killed.
Well, those Thors still just remaining on the creep on this side of the map. You know, even these bases that don't really have resources left at them, I like the killing of them on either side just to take more ground. Makes it a lot harder for your opponent to respond. It's less safe areas. They have to be further back. Like, this is a great area to maybe put some spines and spores, but you can't really utilize that as much anymore. A lot of the creep is being eaten up. So I think very good moves here from ByuN, as long as he's not being cost inefficient doing it.
Yeah, it's still absolutely a good thing to do, and then it just kind of, you know, threatens the domino effect as well, which is very concerning. And it really pushes the Zerg player in this case under ByuN's thumb. He's not elsewhere doing a counterattack or a trade, right? He was just responding to that threat. I feel like we might not see the hatchery replaced, but we're going to see static defense replace that position.
Yeah.
And, keep the high ground as long as possible.
I like the SCVs being sent in as well. Can we look at 12 o'clock, that command center that just landed there? Gonna re-expand to pick up these 470 minerals. Love to see it. Honestly, I mean, every mineral at this point, drop a couple mules there, get it out.
It actually affords the command center in then, so
yeah,
70 minerals in your pocket.
Very worth it. Extremely worth it.
Yeah. Again, pushing into this location, of course, there wasn't much stack defense added on, so it hardly counts. And that is a very, very intimidating Terran army. Liberators lead siege hopping forward, as this time around, ByuN is very prepared to take a direct fight.
Yeah, the Ghost coming up. A very nice fungal goes off, and now suddenly the Brewlords do turn and get a big volley off there as well. They've taken a lot of damage. Queen's coming up for those transfusions, and Dark flies back a little bit. Reasonably done considering how good that started for ByuN.
Yeah, he was looking, he was getting into position, but it kind of turned sour on him. That particular building and the way that it was set up, it really accommodated the fungal plus broodlings, right? But now we have ByuN, sorry, once again trying to pressure. Like, he wants to take his engagement, which he's been a little denied so far, but he's still threatening it. And now we have a weird situation where it looks like ByuN is defending his side of the map, but he's not. Like, he could go kill, this is now what he's doing. He's gonna go kill Dark's bases.
Well, right now, a nice fungal does hit. He's trying to get those volleys off, of course. ByuN being very careful targeting with the Thors. Look at the damage chunking down on those Broodlords. But a very good fungal followed by a huge volley.
Oh, another fungal as well. The chains are coming down. The Ghosts cannot be as effective as they would like. Some of them going down, a few barely surviving. Dark continuing to take damage on his hatcheries, but there we go. The Natural has the Hive, the Spires, both of them. The Roachborn and the Infestation Pit, I mean, so many critical buildings. As Dark is actually the one to engage. ByuN does pay attention at the last seconds, but does he have enough of those snipes? Broodlings coming down, but the Broodlords themselves forced to retreat.
And it looks like ByuN, I think, will back up for a moment here. The Corruptor's coming up, and they pick off one of those Liberators. 3 more down to the south there. Definitely wants to deal with those ASAP. Oh, man. Very big moment here for ByuN, taking out the Spires.
Yeah, 8 Broodlords barely sneaking in, though, and they are forming on the front lines, which could be great or could be a problem if the Thors get on top. Looks like they will actually be able to form. I'm noticing those Infestors without a lot of energy, only a couple with a decent amount, as ByuN continues to hold on to this aggressive position, also taking over the rest of the map at the same time, by the way, guys. Like, he is actually dominating the map at this point, and Dark is going to need one heck of an engagement, which maybe he finally has, as the Neurals come down as the Thors take down their own Liberators. The Ghosts do manage to escape, but the Thors certainly not.
Well, you know what? That was a good engagement. Those Broodlords finishing just in the nick of time, doing a great job of clearing that army out. But this Thor counterattack continues forward. Ghosts getting some very valuable snipes here as well. Both sides with big banks. Dark with a lot more gas, though, than ByuN.
He can't replace his Broodlords. He lost everything, including the layers. He has to start a lair, and then this. Though he has 1 Spire. He doesn't have a greater Spire. Oh, no. I mean, I guess that'll do well enough. The Corruptor is mostly being used to deal with the Liberators, which maybe is not a concern right at this moment. I replaced one. There we go. So he did see this coming, which I'm really glad to see, because it was threatening to happen for so long. He just basically turned this like a clock. He's like slightly to the left, and now this left side is my hometown, and that right side is yours.
Oh, man. What a tough position, but Dark still has income. Do you try to switch up what you're going for here unit-wise? Because it's going to take so long for more Brutes to come out. Or are these Brutes going to be enough? Oh, no! The snipes from the side. The Fungal only gets 1. EMP's coming out very quickly. This is bad news for Dark.
Oh, man. Yeah, Dark is trying to actually save that base that was just taken out, but he probably should not have. Oh, no, that was not a great start. He does have, once again, a fairly big bank, and he's recovering his technology, his productions. He's actually even going for an engagement. This might be a little overreaching, however. 1 good fungal does not make the entire fight, not with the rest of the Thors coming forward, but the Ghosts get awfully courageous, and they get fungaled, almost every single one of them. They're very, very low. They can start popping to the fungals as well. 1 more would pop so many ghosts.
Oh,
But that is it. ByuN, ecstatic, takes the 2-1 against Dark.
And that was quite the series. ByuN rightfully ecstatic. I mean, that was a super back and forth game. Excellently done from ByuN. You know, I think getting in there, getting rid of the Greater Spire, such a crucial moment, and then breaking Dark before he could refill his tech. A tough loss there for Dark, who's going to go to 2-2.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it's do or die for his next match. We'll figure out who that is shortly, I suppose. But for ByuN, very relieved. I mean, I think, you know, kind of focusing on that match, just relieved to have won that after the craziness that happened, I would say was probably his advantage, right? He was kind of supposed to win that. But then, the overall tournament. Now he's just into the bracket stage. He's into the quarterfinals.
This is getting a little bit wild right now. So, so far, it's Maru Classic, Raynor, and ByuN going on to the round of 4. We have 4 more players left to decide. Cyril is playing for it right now against Kier. And, of course, we're going to have a few more matches here on the stream as well.
Yes, I mean, there's still plenty of matches to go here for the Swiss format. We are seeing some of the players advance, and unfortunately, some of them fall out. But, you know, we'll be talking more about that very soon. I'm not sure what has happened to the schedule, to be honest.
Yeah, hard to say.
There's definitely more games to come. I think Cyril did just actually make it through to the round of 8.
Oh, okay. So that, I mean, we have the biggest names really getting through right now, but Dark is one of those biggest names. He definitely wants that round of 8. This year, I think, hasn't been as good for him as he had hoped. But we'll see if he can make it to the round of 8 in his next match. But right now, we're going to throw it up to Fancy and Rachel. Guys, take it away.
Whew, we're catching up with ByuN here after a marathon 3 games and an incredible win. How are you feeling right now, bud?
축하드립니다. 소감이 한마디 부탁드립니다.
일단 경기가 너무 불리했어가지고 거의 그냥 GG 칠각 엔터까지 눌렀는데 그래도 한 번 더 있는데 한 번 더 좀만 더 열심히 해보자 했는데 버티고 해봤는데 이렇게 결과가 제 예상과는 다르게 너무 좋게 나와가지고 제가 우승할 때보다 좀 지금이 더 기쁜 것 같아요.
So my chances were not that good, and I was really nervous. So I was like, let's hold on and put our strength in this game. So when I won, I was really happy, and I'm really excited and happy right now.
سألنا أول شيء بيون على فوزه في هذه المباراة عن شعوره بسبة الفوز. كان يقول إنه بصراحة أنا ما كنت متوقع إني أبو فوز، وكان في حالات كثيرة كان ممكن إنه يخسر الجيم، لكن بالأخير قدر إنه يفوز، وحاليا هو جدا جدا سعيد، وأتوقع إنه واضح على مشاعر على وجهه.
ByuN, your emotions, your reactions, all of this makes your fans so happy. I think it's part of the reason you have so many fans, and I'm sure they're excited to see you finally do an interview here on the stage. So anything you want to say to them?
팬분들한테 하실 말씀 있으신지?
일단 팬분들도 지금 경기 보고 되게 다들 포기하셨을 거예요, 저처럼. 근데 팬분들도 저랑 같은 기분이실 것 같아요. 그러니까 이렇게 연습 되게 많이 하고 있고 이렇게 경기력을 보여드렸으니까 지금 8강 진출했으니까 또 8강에서도 되게 기대 많이 해주셨으면 좋겠어요.
So I think the fans were also a bit down when the game didn't go well, but I think they have the same exact feelings that I'm feeling right now. They're excited as I am, and I hope they're hopeful about how the games will do, the further games in.
سألنا بيون السؤال الثاني في المقابلة، نتكلم عن الجمهور اللي جالس يشجعه، خصوصا انه من اشهر اللاعبين الموجودين معنا في هذه البطولة. كان يقول انه انا اتوقع انه الان كل المعجبين جالسين يشعرون بنفس الشعور اللي اشعر فيه الان، وكلهم مبسوطين عشان بالاخير فزت، خصوصا انه في الفترة الأخيرة ما فزت الايام حقاتي ابدا، فاكيد انهم مبسوطين لي، وان شاء الله انا بحاول قد ما اقدر اني اقدر اكمل المشوار هذا في باقي البطولة.
ByuN, you've faced Dark many times over the years, and you have a long history of games against him. And even if you didn't, I would say that you have a long history of games with him just after the ones today. So is there anything from your games today that you want to shout out to the audience that you feel you did particularly well?
그 게임에서 직접 뭐 잘하셨는지 알 수 있을까요? 게임 안에서?
일단은 제가 준비한 게 빌드가 따로 있었는데 제 예상과는 다르게 좀 진행돼가지고 아 이거 조금 많이 힘들겠다 생각했어요. 제가 예상한 대로 했으면은 더 좋은 결과가 나올 수 있었는데 더 쉽게 갈 수 있었는데 아무래도 이게 무대 앞에서 경기하다 보니까 팬분들 앞에서 경기하다 보니까 워낙 압박감도 심하고 긴장도 돼가지고 제가 제 생각은 다르게 플레이가 됐는데 그 나중에 역전할 때는 제 평소 실력보다 좀 더 나온 것 같아요.
So I was planning to do a new build, and that was on my planning, but it didn't go as I wanted to. But since I'm doing it on stage and in front of the fans and on live, I was really nervous about that. So it didn't go as the building didn't go as I wanted to do. So I'm really happy it did go. So I'm happy.
زي ما تشوفون أعزائي المشاهدين في السؤال الثالث في نهاية المقابلة نسأله عن التاريخ اللي موجود ما بين بيون وخصمه. زي ما احنا عارفين بينهم هيستوري جدا عريق. سألناه انه كيف كان شعورك تجاه النقطة هذه بدخولك في هذه المباراة. كان يتكلم على انه كان مجهز بيلد جديد متخصص في هذا الجيم لكن حاول انه يطبقه بس انه ما مشت الامور لصالحه في هذه المباراة بس قدر انه بالاخير يفوز بالجيم بنفس الاستراتيجية.
ByuN, your happiness and your excitement are infectious. I feel energized for the rest of the day here in the tournament, and I hope you guys on the desk are feeling the same.
جدا مبسوطين الصراحة بفوز بيون وحتى من شاعر تجاه الفوز هذا بس خلونا نتوجه على طول مع الاستوديو التحليلي انه يتكلم أكثر عن هذه المباراة.
Absolutely, thank you very much. It's as if all of our players have chosen to crawl through the blistering heat of the desert as we've had one of the longest series of games in StarCraft memory that I can recall here for these series. And this one's no exception. But look at that, ByuN is able to take the victory after what was a very interesting series as a whole. I mean, we start things off, Loco, with game one going the way it did. I was very surprised Dark actually GG'd out in the situation that he did. I understand that he loses his spawning pool and his layer there.
Yeah.
Still, he could have fought it out a little bit longer.
Yeah, drop came into his main base. He ended up losing maybe a little bit more than he was really planning on losing there, but it definitely did not necessarily feel like it was game over. And obviously, this is a very long day for these players as well. And this series, it certainly took a while to complete as well. So maybe that's the reason why he decided to tap out a little bit sooner than he sometimes would. But this is essentially the moment where he decides, okay, this is game over. And you can look at the supply count right now, and he's like, yeah, it's not looking too great for Zerg, but it's not looking awful either.
No, definitely. I mean, you can play it out a little bit longer and try and, you know, get some roaches on the board. But anyway, move on to game two and see how Dark is trying to battle back during all of this. And actually, to be fair, Nick, I kind of, you know, meme a little bit about like crawling through the desert in blistering heat, but it really shows how much this tournament means to all these players. The fact that these games are going so far, everybody's kind of a little bit hesitant about taking some of these engagements. I think we saw some of that in this series as well, just being as careful as possible to try and attain the top spot.
There's something to be said about the fact that right now these games that are so long, this isn't the exception, this seems to be the rule, this seems to be the norm, and yeah, maybe it's the prize pool and what's at stake. Maybe players are not really interested in taking big risks early on when it's probably better to try to play a game of stamina and a game where, okay, if I am in fact better, and you know, what is peak StarCraft 2, these long games where it does go on and on and on and on like this, maybe this is the best way to do it.
I mean, as we're watching game 3 behind the scenes, we genuinely think there's moments where maybe ByuN taps out. Considering the position he was in, even though he was a little bit ahead, Loco. It felt like the game state got away from these guys in this game 3.
Oh, I always love seeing ByuN window. He's so happy, right? It's amazing to hear him as well after the match in the interview. But yeah, that was definitely a moment where Dark managed to break into his main base, right? When those brutes got to the other side of the map, it looked very scary. And we looked at the camera and you know, ByuN was sitting there. It really looked like he was ready to tap out.
Yeah. It did. But it did not. And now he moves on
into
the round of 8 here as we take a look at the results coming in so far. So guaranteed we have 5 players through, and what a list so far here, Nick. Maru, Classic, Serral, ByuN, and Reyna are already 5 of the 8 players in the next round.
You know, 3 of these guys, Maru, Serral, Reyna, you know, obviously I think we all expected them to get through here, but ByuN Classic, those are really exciting names, especially Classic, seeing how well he's doing.
All right, here are the next 3 matches, and these 3 matches are the last matches of Swiss. Solar Hero, Spirit Clem, and Cure versus Dark. So actually guaranteed another non-Korean through into that round of 8 here, Loco. But Solar Hero going up against each other. Cure and Dark going up against each other.
The fact that 3 of those players are not going to make it to the round of 8 is also noteworthy, right? Like a lot of these names we very commonly see in like the top 4 of tournaments.
That's right. In a bizarre twist of fate, only 8 players can go through to the round of 8.
Who would have ever considered that? That's insane.
Huge scenes here at Gamers8. But anyway, that is it for now. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It is time to go to a break. When we return, we get on with those final matches from Swiss to determine who moves on to the